All right, so Urban Butler, how did it all start?
Yeah, so the Urban Butler was born, so to speak, in 2016. I was living in Australia, and me and my partner at the time were moving to New Zealand. We went for a 3-month holiday in Europe, and we stayed in probably 80% short-term rentals and 20% hotels. The one thing that I noticed about the short-term rentals was just the additional layer of customer service that was supplied by the hosts in Europe. The brand story is one night in particular, we were checking in Barcelona. It was like 10 p.m. The guy came to meet us at the apartment, showed us through, lovely little apartment, little balcony, etc. On his way out the door, he said, "Okay, here's Lonely Planet's list of recommendations, and here's ours." And then proceeded to say, this is where you get the best tapas, this is where you get the best aperitivo, this is where you get the best coffee, make sure you go here, etc., etc. So he leaves, any questions, give me a call, sort of thing. He leaves, and 10 p.m. in Barcelona is dinner time.
Yep.
So we're like, let's go out for dinner. Where are we going to go? We're going to go to that tapas place that he just recommended, right? And that's, that was the beginning of it. It's that sort of live like a local. And I've got friends in obviously in the UK and all over Europe, but I didn't know anyone in Barcelona at the time. And just having that local insight was just absolutely made a whole difference to our entire stay.
Like a little personalised touch, eh? So there's that little bit of personalisation around, something that can be quite impersonal at times. Made the trip, and you remember it.
Absolutely, that's that kind of live like a local kind of mantra that we have. Fast forward a year, I was working in corporate. I was working for KPMG for 7 years in Australia. I transferred to a real estate company here in New Zealand. Different market, didn't quite work, wasn't happy. Bought an investment apartment in Richmond Road in Ponsonby. Stuck that on Airbnb, and it just went nuts.
Yeah, right.
And that was the catalyst. And I just started researching all the other companies that were here, but then started to look at ones in Europe, the ones that were sort of the aspirational ones, and then just built the ground up from there.
So what you said, KPMG. What was your background before Urban Butler? What did you do?
Yeah, so it's been a long journey. At uni, I did construction management.
Yep.
Worked in construction management in the UK for a couple of years, then took an OE. I had a 12-month working visa for Australia. Stopped off in Asia for about 6 months looking around. As soon as I landed in Australia, within a couple of months I got offered sponsorship by a company, which was a specialised asset valuation company. So it was about the time when a lot of tax changes were happening in Australia around mining and large large corporates, and bringing their assets under the one umbrella, under the Australian tax umbrella. They got a massive tax benefit where they got to revalue all their assets and depreciate them again. So I was chucked in the deep end, doing BHP, Western Mining, all these huge, all these huge sites in the middle of the desert. Absolute eye-opener, and I really, really enjoyed it. Fast forward again a couple of years, moved from a traditional valuation company to a real estate company just at the time GFC hit. So it was sort of last in, first out. Right. And then during that time of 5 months or something that I wasn't working, just looked at where did we get the best work from in the past, and that was from the big four accounting firms. Only EY's had their own tangible asset valuation team. Yeah. So I approached the other three, Deloitte, PwC, KPMG. KPMG came to the party, and I started that business line for them. Awesome. And that was in their corporate finance division.
Yeah. So you've always had, aspirations to have your own business?
Yeah, look, it's certainly something that allows you a lot more freedom and that sort of thing, which is what I enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were talking to someone the other day about being able to create your own environment, and that can be quite a very rewarding thing for someone in their own business.
Absolutely. There's the stress that comes with it, but it pays off.
Yeah. Absolutely. We all know that. Yeah, that's right. So with Urban Butler, the aim of Urban Butler, as I see it, is that you take away the headaches of property management for a start, and you lease the apartments on a short-term basis. But the thing that I reckon is the best thing that I really like about your business is that you deal with an issue that a lot of people get pissy with in apartments, which is these landlords who do short-term rentals and they just dump their tenants and run, or they leave a bloody lockbox or whatever,
Yep.
But you guys offer like a management service of that, and it's like a next level type thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's it's taken us a long time to get here. We've learned a lot on the way, a few fails on the way, but I think the service and the processes that we've got in place now are pretty good. That also involves a fair bit of software as well. So yes, the issues for us in multi-tenanted buildings is around making sure that all of the community players are happy. So that's everyone from the residents to the body corp to the building management.
Tough job trying to keep
I
everyone
know.
Yeah.
We're a tough bunch.
Yeah.
But by providing a service that includes a lot of verification and a lot of vetting, not too onerous that the guest doesn't want to book, but enough that we know they're not going to cause any trouble. Also having the backing of the residents and the building management, etc., in terms of we want to know if there's any issues straight away so that we can stamp them out. If we don't find out until the morning, it's too late. We've got 24-hour customer service. We've got noise monitors that we put in the apartments, as you
talk about
know.
that later on. Yeah.
And so there's all these little stopgaps to prevent any issues happening. Of course, there are minor things that get through, but we can deal with them straight away if everyone knows the processes in place.
So talk us through your you were saying there about your I guess the guest experience as people book. They go through a vetting process.
Yep.
That's really crucial, I guess, right? And you're not just sort of getting any old Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Susan, or Karen, or whoever. But you're, there's a process that people have to go through when they book, and you guys vet them and make sure that they're legit. Tell us a bit more about that one.
Yeah, so we've got various channels that we use. Airbnb being one of them, Booking.com, Expedia, and a few other sort of more Marriott Homes and Villas, and a few other sort of more boutique ones, and of course our own website. When people book the apartment, we send them a check-in form that asks for their ID, purpose of travel, all their arrival times and that sort of thing. If it's an Airbnb booking, we can look at their Airbnb account and see what reviews they've got. If they don't have enough reviews, or if they're a recent member, or they live in Auckland, for example, that's just a red flag where we would ask them, what's the purpose of your trip? Tell us about your group, that sort of thing. Most people are more than happy to do that. If they're dodgy, that's where they drop off.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
And that kind of helps us. And then once they're through the initial check-in form, we also send them a rental agreement, which has the body corp rules in the back of it and highlighted the ones that relate specifically to them. And they sign that. They pay a security bond. They give us their ID, give us their credit card. So basically, we've got everything that we need. And in terms of any potential dodgy guests, as I said, as soon as they get that check-in form or that rental agreement, then they're out.
Too hard.
And that works well for us.
That's really good to know that you go through such a process, because some of your apartments are really high-end, right? So you sort of, I guess you cater for quite a wide section, but you've got some really high-end properties around the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we find that's our niche, is that sort of mid to high-end. You've got a lot of sort of 150, 200 a night commodity stock in Auckland, very competitive, not necessarily the best guests. And then you've got your sort of super high-end, your $5,000 a night plus sort of stuff on Waiheke and Queenstown in particular, and a few operators that do really well in that space. Ours is just that, what I call mid-luxury, and that's that sort of mid to high-end, sort of $1.5 to $5 million apartments. And the three things that we look for are location, presentation, and point of difference.
Nice.
If the apartment doesn't meet those three, then we don't take it.
So what's what is an example of a point of difference?
A point of difference could be a view. It could be a quirky fit out. It could be a sauna in the apartment. Anything that makes it stand out online. Basically, when people are booking, and I'm sure you've done it yourself. I'm certainly that fickle. Just as soon as you see the photo of the one you want, that's it.
Yeah.
The other one could be cheaper in the same neighbourhood, but no, I want that one. And that's why it's so important for us to get the right professional photographs done and have that showcasing the apartment.
Yeah, because there is a lot of fairly stock standard, like you say, stock out there.
Yeah.
But there are also some amazing apartments throughout the city, right? Like, we look after a few buildings where the views or just the location or a mixture of everything, very high end stuff, and man, they knock your socks off when you go and have a look at some of these apartments. Like, there's some amazing property in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And a perfect example would be something like, say, the Heritage or Metropolis, where you've got hotel pool stock, and then you've got private stock. And if you're competing with the hotel pool stock, then rates are pretty average. If you can take one of those hotel stock apartments and completely reno it and stand out, it can earn double or more than the stock one. So it's just about, again, standing out online and differentiating from the commodity stuff.
So if I'm an apartment owner, and I guess it would be good to know who your ideal or your perfect owner is as a customer, because you've got your rental, like you've got your guest customers, but then you've also got your owner customers, right? Two, literally, yeah. What sort of who would be your perfect owner customer? Well, what do they look like for you?
Yeah, look, we've done a bit of this in terms of marketing and personas and that sort of thing. And the perfect middle of the road owner persona for us is a sort of middle-aged couple. He might be, corporate world, banking, whatever. They've got a couple of kids. They're very, very busy. They don't have time to do this stuff, but they want to invest. Also, potentially, if they're investing, a lot of our clients are from New Zealand, but they live overseas. So when they're investing in some of these apartments, they want to stay there from time to time. So if they put it on a long-term rental, then they can't do that. They also want to share it with their friends and family. Can't do that. So by having a short-term solution, means they can block it out when they want to use it, and we can rent it out the rest of the time and hopefully get them some good yields.
And how are you finding occupancy at this point in time? We've been through the horrendous COVID period.
The ringer.
Is occupancy starting to bounce back?
It really is. Yeah. We've seen. I think we were sort of 78% or something in June, and probably roughly the same in July. Even with the school holidays. We are petering off slightly towards the end of August and September, and then it picks straight back up for summer. So definitely June and July are higher than we would see in a normal year, going back a couple of years. That's kind of a quiet time for us in Auckland. It seems to be those sort of shouldery type seasons. So just going into winter, just coming out of winter is the kind of quiet bits. In the middle, it's reasonable. And then, of course, November through to March, April is just chock-a-block.
So what constitutes a short-term stay then? Is it, how many nights is it, or and what is where does it sort of change from being a short-term stay to being a long-term stay?
Good question. A lot of people use the definition of short-term as 3 to 90 days.
Oh, yeah.
For us, if someone wants to pay short-term rates with a minor, or with some discount, for 365 days, that's fine by us. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of agents, they won't touch anything less than 6 months, and they don't even really like the 6 months. It's 12 months. So there was a new mid-stay kind of term that was born out of COVID, really. A lot of people not sure what to do with their apartments, and then we're renting them out for use 3 to 6 month kind of periods, which was termed mid-stay. But for us, it doesn't matter. With ours, they get a discount over a week, they get another slight more discount over a month, and if they talk to us about something that's over 3 months, then we'll certainly talk to the owners and bring it down a little bit for them, try and sweeten it up.
Yeah. And you see you're getting a lot of repeat customers?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really good to see, probably since end of March, April, the return of the business traveller, which we, some of these guys that were repeats a lot in, 18 and 19 that we hadn't seen for 2 years, which was fantastic. And we're getting a lot of repeat leisure travellers now, which is a real testament to the guest experience.
So when they get in touch with Urban Butler and they book again, you can tell that they're a return customer. Do they necessarily want to stay in the same place they stayed in last time, or they want to stay in somewhere different?
Yeah, horses for courses. Some do. Some just want to stay in somewhere new because they feel like they trust us enough that it's going to be a good apartment as well. But yeah, a lot of people come back to the same apartment, which is quite cool.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
Yeah.
And
it's like their sort of little bolt hole.
Yeah, almost feel like their little batch.
Yeah,
home away from home type thing.
Totally.
Yeah. People don't like change that much, and they're like, oh, we'll just go back to the place I stayed in. I loved it.
That's exactly
go back
right.
Yeah.
And that sort of leads to, certain apartments that we've had in the past, and probably a couple that we've got now. I'm not a massive fan of the decor, but and I'm kind of umming and ahhing when we're signing it up, and then you put it online and people will just book it because everyone's different.
Yeah, that's right.
Not everyone likes the same as what I like.
Different tastes and things like that. Okay, that's another good point actually. So when you've got the apartment, it's furnished, right? So the owner furnishes it, or do you guys furnish it, or is it a mixture? Or?
We deal with 2 or 3 fantastic interior design companies. They can fit any budget. They know exactly what we want. I can basically introduce them to the owner, and I know that when I go there, it will have everything down to the knives and forks. They know exactly what we need, and the same with the photography. They'll get it set up perfectly for the professional photos, and that's the kind of service that we want to provide for our new clients, but also for us. It just takes the pain away for us, and we don't want people going. What I always explain to owners is, you can furnish it yourself, absolutely. But if you employ one of these people, they'll give you their discounts and then they'll charge you for their time. It works out roughly the same cost, but you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, good point. So is there, like, when you say that you get an interior designer, is there like almost is there an Urban Butler look throughout these apartments, or are they all kind of different? Or
No, we don't have a look. We do like that sort of, modern look. But also we've got one, that's kind of like French country, and as I said earlier, people like different things, so it doesn't matter as long as it's succinct in terms of design flow and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's good. So how was the COVID period for you guys? I mean, a lot of businesses in the tourism sector suffered, closed, haven't come back. And you guys would be classed in the tourism industry, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hospitality, travel, tourism.
Yeah. So how did you what was COVID like for you from say 2020 through to just recently?
Yeah, look, brutal. We hired a new ops manager that March 2020. Could have been the worst hire ever.
Yeah.
Turns out to be one of the best hires ever.
Right. Yeah.
Because we had a lot of downtime, went through, put all new processes in place, did all the documentation, almost like a franchise book, where you could basically, as you grow, you can go, right, chapter 1, that's your job, chapter 2, that's your job, and that is now constantly being updated because things move pretty fast in this industry, but a lot of it is going to stay, and that time we lost a lot of money. Everyone was on 80%, but we managed to retain all of our staff during that whole period.
Good job, man. That's awesome.
And luckily, we onboarded an investor who could see the future and was happy to fill that hole for a while, in order for us to still be here today.
Yeah.
And the opportunity now is huge, and so it was a good decision.
Good on you, man. So you used the time wisely. You didn't just sort of sit around like some people feeling sorry for themselves and going, "What the hell do we do next year?" Like let's get this bloody thing, under lock and key.
I mean, we redid our whole website during that time as well. Brand new website, which we kind of flipped on its head. The previous 2017 Squarespace website was really designed at attracting new owners. Suddenly, prior to COVID, Airbnb and all those other channels, they did all of our marketing for the guests. Didn't have to worry about it. Always 80% plus. Then suddenly we had to start marketing to guests, and that was a challenge because it's something we hadn't done before. And out of all of the EDMs and all the social media and all of the ringing around that we did to try and get essential workers and people that were stranded or moving house or whatever it was, which we did manage to snag a fair bit of. But during that time, we were like, we need to be advertising to guests as well. We can't just rely on these channels. Airbnb, refunded en masse, huge amount of people across the world, and got a lot of stick from professional management hosts because that was their bread and butter. And so by flipping our website around and having it designed as a booking channel, we figured that if you're an owner and you're looking at it, and there's still a page for owners, but it's not owner facing.
Yeah.
If you look at that website and you see how those other properties are presented, then you either want to be in or you don't, and that kind of does its advertising for the owners whilst also taking bookings.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't actually really think of it until we were talking about it before. How you kind of got your two businesses going there, right? Yeah.
Hospitality and guests, and property management and owners.
Yeah. And so that's a learning curve in itself, because most people are either one or the other. Most people are either renting out, say, rooms in a hotel. They don't really have too much to do with the owners per se, and then the other side is property managers.
That's right.
Who wouldn't be really dealing with guests. So yeah.
No, because you just get a tenant in for 12 months and
where you go.
Right.
Yeah. So where did I guess going back to the initial question about where did Urban Butler start? Like, what was and you said you had that experience, and but where was that? Was that the actual moment, or was there a moment after that where you were like, nah, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to chase it?
The moment after was when we got the investment apartment and put it on Airbnb, and I was Jack with corporate, and that was the catalyst.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so, you've adapted your service, or you've come up with a service based on your own experiences. Like, you haven't sort of like copied off someone else or gone, oh, that's a good idea. You've sort of thought, how would I like to be treated if I was renting an apartment, like short stay?
That's right. I mean, I've done a fair bit of travel, and so has all the team. We're all passionate about giving people a good experience. I saw this thing the other day, which is not my expression, but it kind of sums it up. It's on a podcast or something I was watching the other day. That automate the predictable so you can humanise the exceptional.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that just sums up what we're trying to do, right? And that, anything that's checking instructions, whatever, that's fine. Just send it through on the app. It's all automated.
Automate the predictable so you can humanise the exceptional.
Yeah.
Shit. That's stuck straight away.
And so if someone wants to know which restaurant to take their clients to, they pick up the phone. We've got recommendations in our house books, but if they want something specific, if they want a chef to go, if they want a wine tasting, whatever they want, we'll fix it up for them. And that's where you get the extra creds,
Is that the Butler side of the name?
Yeah.
Because how did you brainstorm that name? How did you come up with the actual name Urban Butler?
So when we first started out, the concept was there. And I was dealing with a friend of mine in Melbourne who did all the initial design and the logos and that sort of thing, and the brand concept, everything. And prior to that, I had some very interesting names. Maybe you'd like it. Clearly not my forte. One of my favourites was Eduardo.
As in A-I-R?
Eduardo. What was the other one? Jump on Air or something like that.
Yeah.
Just absolute shite.
Yeah.
And Robbie, my good friend in Melbourne, came up with a few sort of Butler concepts, and we were talking about guest experiences and stuff like that. He's like, well, you want to be able to adapt it as you go forward, And then Urban Butler just stuck, and that's what we want to start doing again now. Stuff that we were really exploring early 2020 was doing, Meet the Winemaker at Como River or whatever it is. Small boutique little tours, oyster shucking on Waiheke, whatever it is. And just getting a small group of our guests, Mercedes Sprinter, whatever it is, get them down there, have a great day, can't get it off the shelf, great bragging rights, great experience, full stop.
That high value sort of stuff, unique experiences and things like that.
People pay for that, and you can make it real good. Yeah.
Do people ever expect an actual butler?
It's funny when people communicate with us sometimes, and it's like, hello Mr. Butler, or hello Urban Butler. But no one's quite expected a cloche.
No one's asked for where the butler's quarters and all that sort of thing.
No, not quite. But it does really fit the business really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's catchy, man. It's real catchy, and it's you remember it because it is quite different, compared to those other names that you
so and so property management.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, blah blah blah. Short stay.
Yeah,
quite
that's
boring.
right.
Yeah,
Eduardo.
Now, obviously, like you've come out of COVID, and things are starting to pick up with the borders reopening and all that sort of thing. That's everyone. I think a lot of people are looking forward to that. A lot more people coming back into the country. Based off all the hard work that you guys did during the COVID time, I hear that you were nominated for an award.
That's correct.
Yeah, man. Tell us about that. That's pretty exciting.
We won an award during COVID, which was a corporate travel award from Alta Vita, which is a corporate version of Airbnb. I'm saying that wrong. Hopefully they're not watching. But that kind of concept. And we have dealt with them a lot in helping them to set up in New Zealand, which is fantastic. But yes, we've been nominated for the Westpac Customer Service Excellence Awards.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when does that happen, and when do you find out about that?
It's in October or November, and I'm not sure if you even find out before or if you find out on the night. I'm not sure.
It'd be exciting to find out on the night.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you go along like black tie dinner type thing, and
awesome. Pretty much at the what's the one at the top of the hill, at the top of Simon Street there?
Oh, the Langham Cordis.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That must be quite a gratifying thing to be nominated for an award like that.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, especially when our entire focus is on guest experience. The way we say is if the guest is happy, they leave a good review, the owner's happy, we can get better rates and better occupancy, all just from concentrating on this guest. And that you put yourself in their shoes often, if there is some little nickel or something, and what would I do here? What would I want?
Yeah.
And we just fix them up straight away. Often find that it's not the issue itself; it's how you deal with it. And if you're on your front foot and you straight up front, just own it and deal with it straight away, then everyone leaves happy.
Yeah, that's the key, right? It's
we can't be perfect.
Yeah, but you remember the days when it used to be that the customer's always right, and that seemed to disappear. Like in the mid to early 2000s, and it became
until they're not.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it, right? And now I think people it's kind of flip flopped, totally in the other direction. But yeah, I guess. But you're customer focused, which is the key. You've got to be in your industry.
Yeah, look, I think seeing the influx of overseas travellers and increases in volumes, it takes us back to late 2019. Sorry. The guest now is a little bit more savvy, but also at the same time demanding, but also understanding. It's hard to pick, but they know exactly what they want in the apartment. Has it got a speaker? Has it got a coffee machine? Has it got a desk that I can work from? All those sort of things that maybe in the past weren't so important. They need. We've seen a lot of people that work from anywhere or digital nomads, whatever you want to say. Where they stay for a couple of weeks and they keep extending, that sort of thing. They need all those creature comforts of a home, but without it having, someone's wedding photos or something. There's that kind of balance between a stark hotel room and a family home. It's getting that sort of middle ground. And as much as they're demanding, they're empathetic if there is an issue. So it's kind of a bit of a change in persona.
What do you think's driven that more educated guest? Like, where has that come from, do you think? Is that a societal thing, or has it sort of happened recently, or is it technology, or what is it? What do you think it is?
I'm not sure. I mean, you've got obviously, we were saying the work from anywhere type people, but you've also got all these people that haven't been able to travel for a couple of years. So as much as they're excited to get out of the house, they also want to make sure that what they're booking is what they think it is, and they'll ask all the questions to make sure it is, because they may be splashing out a bit because they're not going overseas, or they may be they haven't travelled to Auckland for a long time. They want to make sure that everything's perfect before they get there, which is great for us, because if we can put people's minds at rest, it'll send them anything that they need prior to their booking, then it just makes their life more seamless.
Yeah, good point. No, it is interesting, and I think personally, I just think it's people's ability to access information. People are looking a lot more online now about, they read reviews, they read, websites and social media stuff, and so pretty quickly, their expectation has been elevated.
That's right.
purely just from the access of information. Previously they would have had some holiday guide or whatever, but now it's like multiple sources, people actual like testimonials and things coming at them. So yeah.
And that brings me leads into we're trialing an app at the moment, which is off the shelf, but it pretty much does nearly everything that we want it to do.
Yeah.
You can brand it up and everything, but what that does is, to your point, is in the past we've sent check-in instructions and house manual 3 days before arrival. People can do their own research, but now with this web-based app, so they don't even need to download anything, we can send all that information to them the moment they book. It just doesn't have the key code or the lockbox instructions or whatever it is, or the access instructions, so they can start planning their trip. They can look around the apartment, they can see what appliances it's got, they can see what restaurants we recommend, we can see how close it is to their family, where they want to go, everything from the moment they book.
That's cool.
And then on the day of arrival, send them the code to get in the door. Absolutely game changer.
That's awesome, man. I love that, and that took care of my technology question, because I normally ask people like, what's the latest and greatest, or what's coming up in your industry from a tech point of view that's going to make either the experience better, or or just are there things happening that are going to make life easier for people? And I guess that's one of them. Or any other?
Yeah. Look, we use a few different types of software. So we've got our main engine room, which is the property management and channel management system. Everything feeds in and out of there. It pushes out to the channels, etc. Pricing, all the messaging comes through one dashboard. You can use it on your phone. All of our staff have got it on their phone, including cleaners and contractors. We can set up tasks for them. They can see the schedule for the cleaning, all in the same dashboard. Amazing. That is Guesty. And then feeding into Guesty, we've got Beyond Pricing, which is a dynamic pricing tool that looks at...
Is that kind of like Uber? How Uber prices?
Yeah, like airlines and hotels, all of them. Yeah. So it just looks at demand, traffic coming through the airport, occupancy, day of the week, season, events, and then it meets the demand. Amazing. Then we also have digital lockboxes and the app, which we've been talking about. What else do we use? We also use another sort of channel manager that pushes out to certain boutique channels that Guesty doesn't reach. But they all work so seamlessly, and the way that I see that evolving. Sorry, I should first mention there's one other thing that we were talking about doing before COVID, and we're now looking at again, and that is, for want of a better word, AI.
Oh, cool! I was going to ask about AI.
And that's kind of can speak multiple languages.
Oh, wow.
You can say, "Hey, Butler, where can I go for Japanese around here?" And it will give you a list, and it starts to learn off itself as well, which is incredible.
Nice.
But the way I see the future of the industry going is that all these incredible softwares that work really, really well and integrate really well with APIs and all that sort of stuff, all the bigger players will start to consolidate that. And it's like, when you first had a phone and you carry your camera around with you and everything as one tool for one job, great, because they work really well. But when you can get them all on one thing, absolute dreamy.
Yeah, goodbye digital camera.
Absolutely. That's right. I mean, these are so amazing.
Yeah. But then, like you say, all those things working together that's the key, right? Because having multiple different apps that don't talk to each other, you're constantly flipping between them, and it's a pig of a thing to look after.
And if you're managing one or two apartments or whatever it is, that's fine. You can go on all the channels every day and look at them. But as soon as you get over sort of 5 or more, then you definitely need something to help you, even just with the pricing.
Yeah. One thing that's just popped to mind as we've been talking is, what the hell did we do before Airbnb?
That's right. Go into a travel agent and they recommend somewhere in Malaga, and off you go.
But that's the thing, like, it's back in the day, I remember going to the travel agent as a kid with my parents, and you'd sit there and they'd be banging away on the computer.
Brochures.
Yeah, brochures. Here, look at this brochure. Take it with you. And how things have evolved since then. The ability, like the internet, was probably the big driver there.
Yeah.
But man, travel agents, they probably don't have many people through the door now.
That's right, because you had the likes of Booking.com and Expedia before Airbnb, which were just basically on-selling hotels, right? And then short term was just a massive disruptor.
Yeah, and now people can go direct to, well, they can still go through a booking agent if they want to, or they can go direct to the wherever they're wanting to go. But
The Urban Butler.
Yeah, the Urban Butler. There you go, good one. But more so the accommodation side of it. You know, it seems that Airbnb turned a whole lot of unused space into additional hotel rooms or beds. You know, and I think wasn't that the story with Airbnb? It was like literally the first one was an airbed in someone's house or something.
Yeah,
like
it was the two founders, and they had a conference in San Fran or something. It was 2007 or 2009, 2007, and they rented out their fold-out couch, and I don't know exactly how they advertised it. I think they gave the guests Pop-Tarts for breakfast. And that was the beginning.
Yeah.
And it just gives people choice. And I know that it gets a lot of stick for different reasons, whether it's misbehaving guests or paying taxes to the local authorities or whatever the gripe is. The amount of businesses and employment and innovation that hangs off of that one platform is unbelievable. You know, in Australia, and I don't know the numbers for here actually. I've just been looking at a report in Australia, but they reckon that it's 25% of the travelling economy is short term in terms of the whole revenue.
Because it's made travel a lot more, I guess, accessible and a lot more affordable for a lot of people. Because previously you'd literally have to go and stay in a hotel. You know, there was no option to stay at like Book a Batch or in a like an Urban Butler apartment or anywhere like that. It was like you go to a hotel and that was it. That was the only option.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's just opened up, and it just gives people the freedom to move around as well. You know, this work from anywhere kind of situation. You can rent out your place on Airbnb for a couple of months. Go and live in San Francisco. You know, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool. This modern society, I guess that's how we're all evolving. And
modern timeshare / house share.
The timeshare. That was like the relic of the 70s and 80s, the old timeshare.
Well, it's coming back.
Is it?
Yeah. There's a new one in Queenstown that I was looking at the other day. It is, they reckon it's worth 30 million or something, this property.
Whoa.
They're doing 8 shares at 3.75 million each. You get to use it for 45 days of the year. But you get an Audi electric car, you get a boat, you get a butler, you get everything like hardcore. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure who these 8 people are, but
holy shit,
good work.
Yeah. That's some pretty high-end elite sort of butler thing. Yeah, shit.
But we were wondering if we could transfer that to a $2 or $3 million apartment in Auckland, right? And you could sell shares in that for people to use it, and they can on-sell the ones that they can't use, as long as they're an approved guest.
Well, that's right. Good for cash flow. You get all that money up front, and then an annual subscription fee, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Well, that's
like at Pacifica.
Yeah, true. Exactly. Yeah, try and get that one past the body. I mean that's one of the battles, right? Is that whole, because I think there was that time where the bad name from that Airbnb stuff kind of started because there was a whole lot of careless. I'd put it down to the careless owners just renting, not giving a shit about how the building was going to be treated. But your service is like, that's why I'd love to see it in more buildings, because it takes away that.
We'd love to be in more buildings.
Yeah, for sure. It takes away that hassle, and you know that there's someone that's accountable for it and someone that can deal with the problems.
24/7 customer service, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And look, that's part of the reason that I joined Astra, which is the Australian Short-Term Rental Association, soon to be the Australasian.
Oh, yeah.
They're going through a lot of regulatory change in Australia at the moment. It's a bit of a patchwork mishmash of different ideas, different states, different councils, and we can see that's coming to New Zealand. We had the APTR, whatever it is, in Auckland that was scrapped last year. I believe Auckland Council are still appealing that. Ideally, we would have a voice in what we think a regulation should look like that's fair to everyone across the board, and it should be countrywide. It shouldn't be council-wide. It shouldn't be revenue raising. It should be across the whole industry, and we want to be a part of that. But it also goes to what you're talking about in the multi-tenanted buildings where you have a body corp and a building manager and you have residents with certain opinions, is getting all those people on board that we're not renting it out for $100 a night and anyone can book it. This is what the process that we go through. This is what happens if anything goes wrong. We can meet with you regularly, like we do at Pacifica. We put in a report for the committee meeting every month. How many bookings we've had, all that sort of stuff. It's
very
part of that
transparent.
community, very transparent. And that's the way that I see it working in buildings going forward. And it doesn't have to be an exclusive arrangement. It can be a preferred supplier arrangement or something like that, where 3 strikes and you're out. Basically, if we recommend these top 3 professional property management companies, and then we're accountable. We're on KPIs. We're whatever. And if we mess up, we're out.
My opinion on that is that it's not going away. Like Airbnb is kind of embedded in the culture now, like Uber. It's like it's become a word. Like
they've had their challenges as well.
They do. Yes, I watched that show on TV a while
it's
back.
good,
It was a bloody good show. Yeah. They may do an Airbnb version.
I'm sure.
But it's not going to go away, and I think we've got to adapt to it rather than just like constantly trying to squash it down. Yeah. And I think and that's where I'm a big fan of your service, because you guys have actually seen, or here are the perceived problems, and here's our solution to it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's all we want to do. We want the industry to thrive. We think it like you say, it's not going away. But there's certain ways to do it to make it better for everyone, and we don't want to be an issue. I've recently moved to an apartment building. Haven't lived in an apartment for 20 years, and I now understand, what that invasion of privacy can look like, and we don't want that for anyone, which is why we have things like the noise monitors in the apartments that alert us if it's over 70 decibels for more than 5 minutes. We put that in the communication with the guest. Again, if there's someone that's potentially dodgy, want to have a party or something, then as soon as they see that, they're like...
Yeah, that's a cool little feature, Like that's quite a unique sort of selling point, I guess, is that you do have technology in the apartments that can alert you to any of these problems that happen. Because I guess one of the things that comes up is it's people that say come to Auckland for a concert or a rugby game or whatever. They stay a couple of nights, don't give a shit about the rest of the building. They're yahooing the whole time. But you guys have things in the apartments that can actually help deal with that.
And the best bit about them is it tells you if they're unplugged as well.
Oh, right. Because they think
they're getting away from it.
It's unplugged, so therefore it's not working. It's
Hello.
Yeah. Put the plug back in place. Yeah, it's cool. So what do you enjoy about the industry that you're in now? Like, what sort of gives you the big feels about what you do?
A few things, I think. So I love property. Always been around property. Construction management, valuation, whatever it is. Investing, etc. I'm very much a people person. I just love talking to people, and I love, suggesting certain things to people that they really enjoy that they wouldn't have found before. So that's kind of also part of our recommendations. We're not recommending, your high street restaurants like Amano and Depot and stuff like that. They're in the recommendations, but then there's Urban Butler recommends, and that's the sort of more offbeat stuff that you wouldn't find, like my mate in Barcelona. Things like Culprit, things like Sugar Brothers, things like Satcha Chai Lounge, all these little ones that are tucked away, Apero, all those sort of little ones that if you were here for 3 nights you probably wouldn't find them. But by reading about them in our highly recommended section, then we get to partake some of our local knowledge with the guests, and generally they are very happy with it.
But to me, that takes care of the urban side of things. It's like you're giving them that actual experience of being part of the urban scene while they're in the. They're not just going to all the typical places. They're going to all the little nooks and crannies and all the sort of just all the places that are frequented by the people that live in the city.
Live like a local.
Live like
a
local.
It's very satisfying, and the perfect example would be in Melbourne, right, where I lived in Melbourne for about 9 years, but if you visit Melbourne as a tourist and you don't know anyone there, you go in all those big pubs and restaurants on the corners or whatever, as soon as you know someone that lives there, or you've lived there for any length of time, all those laneways, you go through a door and down some concrete stairs, looks like you're going into a car park, you open up the door, huge whiskey bar, stuff like that, you never find it.
Yeah, that's right. All the hidden gems, eh?
That's right, yeah.
So that's the good stuff. Like, there must be some pain points around what you do, but also, like, is there any sort of, and I know you guys target the high-end guests, but even the high-end guests can still play.
They can be.
Yeah. Has there been any like absolute clangers that say you walked into a room after the guest is gone, and you've just gone, what the hell's happened here?
Yeah, there's a couple of those in the early days.
Yeah.
We learned a lot very quickly.
I can tell by the answer you don't really want to talk
about it. No one ever died, no one got arrested, but there was some messy cleanups. Yeah, in the early days.
And that happens across the spectrum, right? Like, you might be a bloody rock star, rock stars still play up, they still play trash rooms.
TV's out the window.
Rock and roll and all that sort of thing. Yeah. Are there any sort of things about your industry that you think need to be improved, to make sort of that last sort of 5 or 10% to make it really hum?
Yeah, I think it's that regulation thing, and kind of twofold. It's the finding a happy medium in terms of tourist tax, bed tax, whatever it's going to be called, that the tourist pays on top of their accommodation. It goes into the local governments because they're putting the extra strain on the utility of Auckland, whatever it is. There's also the regulation around body corps and things like that, and that needs to be sorted out because there's a lot of noise around that isn't correct and goes around. So by being a part of Astra and getting that part of it regulated, for want of a better word, there's also having some kind of professional membership as well. So if you're managing more than 5 apartments, then you need to be GST registered. You also need to do some kind of continued professional development or whatever it is to become a member of this professional organisation, which is professional short-term rental management, rather than you just sign up to be a member, to be a part of it, which is more like the Astra stuff, because then you've got a voice as an individual host. But then there also needs to be some regulation of the property management companies, I think, and that should be some kind of professional industry body.
Yeah. Well, that sort of thing provides consistency as well, right? Like, and it kind of raises the bar. So
it raises the bar, and you can have it on your emails. Every other industry that I've ever been a part of, there's something that you're a part of that you put in the bottom of your email signature, whether it's Australian Property Institute or whatever it is. By being a member, you have to do these CPD points, and you have to be accredited every year.
Yeah.
Something like that needs to come in for property management companies.
Yeah, sweet. Good one. Is there anything else we haven't covered? Anything you want to talk about?
No, we've done pretty well.
Yeah, cool.
Haven't
we? I've got sort of. I always sort of end on a similar question, and it's usually along the lines of, as a business owner, what are you most proud of so far in your journey of Urban Butler?
I am very proud that we're still here after 2 years of absolute pain. The first 2 years, 2 to 3 years, were incredible growth, and the wind was taken out of the sails, obviously, at the beginning of COVID. But we buckled down, and very proud of the team for sticking together and helping to build what we are now. And I'm really proud to be part of that whole property ecosystem in Auckland, and to have done that in a very reasonably short period of time. And I just really enjoy meeting new people in the industry, thinking of new ideas, and I'm just really proud of where Urban Butler is today after the road humps that we've had.
No, good answer, man. Like, that sums it up, eh? Like, because a lot of people have been through the ringer and stuff, and you guys used your time well to get yourself positioned to take advantage of the upswing, I guess, is where we're sort of heading to now.
Absolutely.
So well done on that. And if you hadn't have done that, you might be in a different position now. If you hadn't had that thought to go, we've got to use this time and get ourselves ready for when it does get, because you could kind of tell it was going to get busy again. It's just that no one really knew when.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the stats, I think Feb 2020, there is currently about half the short-term rental stock that was available in Feb 2020 to now.
Wow.
And that to us is just a huge opportunity. You know, you've got hotels that have got a slightly bad sort of COVID stigma around them still. You've got travellers that want to stay longer and want more choice. They don't want to be told what time breakfast is. And then you've got a shortage of supply and a high demand in Auckland. And we are actively looking for new properties, urgently even looking for new properties to meet demand. We're putting guests into apartments that we haven't even photographed yet.
Oh wow!
Because we're getting, we've got such a splattering of bookings across the calendar going forward that if someone wants to book 2 or 3 weeks, we can't find them an apartment because there's other bookings in there. We've got to relocate people. So we're looking at what's coming in and literally putting them in there the day we're taking the photos, or taking the photos after they check out.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. It's great.
It's real good.
Yeah, it's all happening. Actually, it's not going to be the last question. I've got one more to ask you, and it was around what you said before around all that work that you did during the COVID time, and you basically came up with a manual. And you mentioned the term franchising. So there's a double-barreled question. Do you manage properties outside of Auckland, and is it the type of business that you can and would be looking to franchise in the future?
Good question. We have engaged an advisor who is helping us to set up. We've got a couple of shareholders now, so a couple of directors, which now makes me accountable. It's not just me. So we've got advisory board meetings every month. We've got a 3-year strategy, which is ambitious but achievable.
Awesome.
And in order to meet those numbers, we will need to move beyond Auckland because there's a certain saturation point. We're looking at other major centres in New Zealand at the moment, and we're on a start first. Franchise, I'm not a massive fan of the franchise model. I just feel that it will lose some of its personality and control from what the vision is. But never say never, right? If we can get it polished that well that we can.
Yeah. That's cool. It's exciting, man. It's exciting to see that there's some plans ahead and you're doing all those growing up business things.
Yeah, I know. Feels like it as well when I'm trying to sleep at night.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Like, I've enjoyed the chat.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming
Always
in.
good chat.
Yeah, it's good to get an insight into, there's so many industries that we sort of touch shoulders with, with what we do. And your company and your industry is one of them. So it's good to get an insight into what goes on behind the scenes in that industry. And hopefully again we'll get to have a chat about things in the future. And
absolutely.
Yeah, all the best, man. Like it sounds like things are starting to move again.
They really are.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that we deal with a lot of building management companies, and I find Active to be number one there. You guys are so approachable, proactive, everything, and it just makes our lives easier as well.
Thanks, man. We appreciate that. The guy that's standing out of shot with a gun pointing at you can go now.
I was hoping you had a brown paper bag.
No, that's cool, man. Thanks for your time, John. Awesome.
Thank you, Brady. Cheers.